So you know, you just, yeah, I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. But I think the power lines.
I don't understand the question with Mount Wheeler Power.
So according to we were given a map with Mount Wheeler Power showing power lines through it almost looked like there was a power line, that kind of went halfway through your property into the alleyway, is that correct?
I think there was a light pole put over there,
Yeah, so that would
years
be,
ago,
and that
from, Elko Street. As far as I know, that's been abandoned.
okay,
It's
so
no longer in service.
I guess the fact that Mount Wheeler Power had some concerns about it is probably what grabs me the most, right off the bat. The final thing I would say that I would be also concerned about is I think we need to really hammer out, and you need to work with the engineers about the water, and figure out, not the water rights, but where the water lines are at. Making sure there aren't any utilities in that alleyway, because they're clearly based off of the water board person down in Baker. There's some legitimate concern about where things are at. We don't really know where they're at.
There's water in Elko Street, but there's none down, going south from there.
Yeah, so that just would need to be spelled out. I think on a nice map, it's really clear, not with a whole bunch of picture maps.
I can do that too.
Okay.
Is there any other concerns?
I was gonna say, is there a way that we can just flat out deny the first?
So,
Yeah.
so in other words,
And then no question.
Simultaneously
So in other words,
tabling the other issue.
no on Nettie and no on Ely, but tabling the alleyway.
And then that way cause I think that convolutes the
I think
problem, I
so,
think,
too.
a little bit.
I agree.
And if we could just get rid of that, then there's no question.
Are we able to do that as one
uh,
agenda item, breaking that up and denying two pieces out of the three? Is that something we can do?
Caroline, can we do
Yeah,
that?
you can make a motion doing that.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make a motion right now to, go ahead and deny the, Nettie Avenue and the Ely Street, and table for 60 days, or 2 meetings, I should say, I guess, right? The alleyway until we get further, and definitely go with more research, as we've discussed with David on this, about our concerns. And if you can come up with a clear and, precise map, and we can put some of our things to ease, then we can revisit that.
Okay, is that
I
the
would
motion?
second
I did
second.
motion it.
That is motion and,
that, and I'll second that.
okay. Okay, so Jason moved to, deny Nettie and Ely Street and put the alley on, a table for 60 days. And was seconded by Leah.
Let's see, I don't know, point of clarification, I'd say probably for 2 meetings.
Two.
So whatever I'm not, when's June meeting, for our June meeting, maybe.
Yeah,
Table it
for the June meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, have a vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. And, yeah, hopefully we can get all that information together and we can proceed on with the alleyway area. We totally understand what you're looking at with the properties in there. And
Jason, thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
this concept for us.
I really appreciate your time and the diligence with which you're looking at this. I understand your situation. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hmm? Pause. Pause for changing We're good. Okay. We're moving on to item E. Discussion of possible action, recommendation that White Pine County enact an ordinance amending its zoning regulation to allow property owners and/or occupants in zones RA1, RA2, 2.5, and RA 5 to keep animals in the same manner as allowed in zones RE 43 and RE 41.
Let me share with you, this is Brad Simpson. I'm the one that brought this item to the planning commission because of a request from two other realtors in the community. They had a piece of property on Fairview Lane that they were trying to sell. They had another agent had a buyer. When they checked into the zoning, they found that it really wasn't zoned for horses. But everybody on Fairview Lane owns horses and stables. So it became an issue, and I'm not sure if just voting on this right now is the right way to do it, because as I talked to other people about this, I would like to recommend that our zoning laws match what the assessor's use codes state, because there's a lot of discrepancies in how they're advertised to people, and it's making it very confusing for someone who wants to buy property, someone who wants to sell it, and for the people in the middle as realtors to deal with it. So I'm open to any other suggestions, but because I drove this area, there's probably 12 to 14 lots down there. The people that wanted to buy the lot wanted horses. They found out it wasn't really zoned for horses, but everyone down on Fairview Lane has stables and horses. So it's conflicting and confusing.
So those done under a special use permit then?
Nope.
Nope, it was just, they've just done it and they've gotten away with it, and it's,
It's grandfathered in?
well, I don't even know if it's grandfathered in, to tell you the truth, but I just think it's very confusing for the public to have a zoning, and I've run into this myself when I've talked to Brad Christensen, in selling property that was, had the assessment code for residential, but it's commercial. So the codes for the assessor's office don't often match the zoning codes. And I'm just wondering if there'd be a better way to have everything reviewed so that the codes match, the zoning codes match the assessor's use codes.
Whose purview would that fall under?
Well, if I may, when you're looking at the assessor's use codes, they kind of mirror the uses that you see under the zoning regulations. So the zoning regulations is basically condensed. And then when you open it up and you start looking at the uses that are allowed in those areas, that's where it expands out like you see in the assessors. If you look at the assessor's use, I mean, there's probably 100 different uses. Okay? I mean, I have a hard time, when I talk to people from anywhere, when they call and they say, well, the use is this. No, the use is that in the eyes of the assessor. But it's not zoned for that. There's a difference between zoning and use. Within the zoning, there are uses. But, and I see, there's a huge, I don't even want to say it's gray.
Well, it's confusing, it's extremely.
It's very confusing.
So,
Yeah.
so the zones are like the categories, and then the uses are the subcategories, is that?
Right, so you
how
have,
it's-
let's just take like Altman here. So that would be is a C2. So it's just light commercial. C3 is highway commercial.
Okay.
So within that, then you have the uses. The zoning is this, and then you have the uses. This tells you, okay, within that zone, you can do this,
Okay.
right?
But
And
in
there's,
this-
apparently there's a discrepancy between,
Well,
or something.
the discrepancy is like Brad Simpson is saying, what people do is they look up, they go to the assessor's website, and they look up, they see this property, and it says what the use is. Well, their use is not what the zoning is. It's what they drive around and they see. So they may see a house and they see a barn. Okay, so that to them is residential and an outbuilding.
So they're really not tied together.
They're
from that
not.
standpoint.
They're not tied together.
And so that's what you're saying is
I would like better
How to get that
clarification.
in, yeah.
You know, when someone wants to buy a property because they want to put horses down on Fairview Lane, and they check the zoning, and they don't want to invest the money, but everybody else on Fairview Lane has horses.
I think that it might be a solution, it would be to, I can get with Burton and find out if we can put a notation in there where he has his use code, that he puts in there that this is, you know, some sort of, this is not, you know, not to be used as a zoning, something like that in there.
Something that clarifies it for the citizens.
Right,
So
that
they
keeps you to
know.
go somewhere else and look somewhere else.
But I also have a
Yeah.
problem with the stuff that's already been
Yeah.
zoned
Yeah.
one way and is being used another way.
And we've done a lot of corrections, mostly in the county over the years. We just did, how many, 15 lots or something like that in Mineral Heights? That's been a few years back.
Zone relocations or?
Rezoned,
zone
the actual, they were residential properties, and they were all zoned C3. Because they originally came, if you look at these old maps, it came from one map. This whole parcel did. And then they went in and they divided it, but they didn't change the zoning. See?
Okay.
So if you were to look at that, if you were to look at it in at the assessor's website, under uses, they would say residential. But on the zoning map, it says it's commercial, so you can't have a residence. So what we did in that, we took that map and we rezoned all of those properties so that it fits what the use is, I mean, kind of.
Well, is this something that we should table until it can be researched to?
It
Yeah.
sounds similar to what
Yeah.
on Ely Avenue, where there's supposed to be mobile homes, but really they're all,
Right,
You know,
and what we did on that was we we did the same thing in the county, we put an addendum in that said that inside of an MH3, you can have, you know, a conventionally built home. So stick-built home, a brick home, a block home, you know, you can still have one of those. Otherwise, it would have taken a special conditional use to have those there, and they've been there for 100 years. So that's what we did, rather than, and that was the easy way of doing it, as opposed to going in and telling everybody, we're gonna rezone your property. It gets real expensive, and
Yeah.
some people get pretty upset about it.
Do we come see you about maps for zoning to figure this out? Cause I mean, I look at this, and I mean, for me, this seems like a no-brainer. You go from, what do they call it? RE43 and RE21, which is a permit area for small farms, hobby farms, and limited agriculture, to pretty much an agricultural thing, and again, I'm
One is a buffer zone, and that's why they put those in.
okay.
And
This
those
one's
are
like
used-
ranch agriculture, and apparently we can't have animals on the ranch agricultural, but we can have them on the hobby farm place.
Right.
So, to me, that seems like a no-brainer, but I think what my concern is this just like, is this the tip of the iceberg? Do we really need to like evaluate the entire scenario and see what everything is going on? Do we need to, as a group, sit down and look at all of that and make sure that everything is tied up or cleaned up or whatever?
I'm just gonna say, from my profession as a realtor,
Yeah.
I see a lot of discrepancies that are causing harm to the markets, and we want to, sitting on the Main Street Committee also, I want this town to grow and boom, but we need probably to have something clarified so everybody is playing by the same rules.
Right. And I'm wondering if maybe we could, and I'll find out if there's another box or another check that they can do with the assessor programs that they use, to put not only the use, but the zoning.
So, yeah.
And a point of clarification on each one.
Well, you just put the zoning on it.
Yeah.
Because then it directs you,
Yeah,
then
it's very
you
clear. Yeah.
stay away from the use. Because that's, I'll be honest with you, the use to me, when it comes to the assessor, should be the assessor only. We shouldn't even see that. It should be the zoning,
Well, I'm just saying,
because then it sends you
sitting
to
on
the
this
city
board
codes and
and
the
in my
county
profession,
codes.
it's been very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see, it doesn't have to be done in this meeting, the next one.
Well, I
Work
think
over
that
time.
the more clarity we get on some of these things is, we're not gonna get people impeding on stuff, and it'd be easier to enforce too.
Yeah.
And going back to your Fairview Lane scenario.
Well, people wanted to bring horses in because it's close to the fairgrounds. And when they checked the zoning, they found out, well, it really wasn't zoned for horses, but everybody else there owns horses because they use them at the fairgrounds. So that was that issue that came up. And
So
I
the
just,
reality is, if they came in, bought the place, and put horses on there, probably nobody would complain. But like Jason said, it's kinda hard to enforce something that we don't have a clear-cut rule on.
Right.
yes,
And I agree, I think we do need to hammer this out. This is exactly the kind of stuff that needs to be hammered out in my book.
Exactly, yes.
so,
I need to educate myself more.
well, this is, trust me, even for a realtor, it's confusing as hell sometimes.
It's a problem, and just because something was done wrong, doesn't mean we should be continuing doing it, but at the same token, if you have, one street who's evolved a certain way, we should.
I don't wanna
make
take-
clear-cut.
I don't wanna change it for anybody on Fairview Lane. They've got the horses there and they're doing stuff and it doesn't look like it's shabby or out of order. But you're not gonna be able to change 14 out of 15 lots because they've been grandfathered in this way. But I think we need to move forward and coordinate assessors codes and zoning codes so that they're saying about the same thing.
Mm.
There's also provisions in the planning section, so NRS 278, where if you're within a mile radius or any point within the city limits, the city does have some jurisdiction, because that gives them the right to, for these people that live in these outlying areas, to come into the city. Okay, so that's the reason why they do that, is in planning, is you don't want horses and stuff in the city limits. That's why you put these buffer zones in. They stay outside these areas.
So there's a buffer zone of a mile outside of the city.
Well, where the city could actually have jurisdiction, and they can say, okay, because, these people may choose to be within the city. In a lot of places, what they do is this: if you have a city utility, you're in the city.
No,
Yes,
no.
yes.
Wrong.
That's how they, if you have a city utility, that's normally how they would do it.
Well, my recommendation now would be to table any changes until we can figure out a way to talk with Brad, talk with Burton,
Yeah,
and figure out a better way of presenting it, because people aren't sure what they're getting now.
if you want, I can get with Burton and see if there's a way that we can, combine the two, so that when people look this stuff up, the city just had their zoning maps redone, so now they're digital. Okay, so that's on the city's website. We're gonna push to get the county the same way. We've actually taken the plan, did we take the zoning off of the county? Can they still get that stuff from the county website?
Excuse me,
Oh, go ahead,
Yes.
okay.
this is Carol. I'm wondering if we maybe need to plan a special meeting that we can meet with the assessor and our board and go through these things and see exactly what we need to maybe change or maybe not, and where we need to follow through with it. We can have Brad, of course, have Brad there and anyone else that would have the input to help solve this issue. But I think a special meeting would be better than trying to work it into a regular meeting timeline-wise.
And I wouldn't have any problem with that. I think that this is something that we do need to visit as part of our, we've all, when we came on this board, we all decided that we were gonna be as proactive as possible and try to clear up some of these problems that we've had. And I think that I have no problems with a special meeting for that.
I'm open to that as well.
Just the fact that it would be more time consuming than to add it in as an agenda item on the next meeting. This would actually be a meeting unto itself,
Correct.
so.
I think they can do that, you can do it as a work session.
Yeah.
Okay.
just thinking.
Rather than have it open to the public,
And
we just
rest
have
of
it
it
as a
happens.
work session.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Carolyn could tell you more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I'm sure this issue will keep coming up. It's really something you have to address street by street when it comes up,
This all seems to be ironing out a lot of the problems we've got between the old, hasn't never been updated master plan and what we've got going on now, which there are too many holes in it, and this will help seal up a lot of that.
First course of action would be I would move now to table the recommendations that were made with my agenda item. And then move to have a special session, a work session, to iron out the differences between zoning and use codes with
The assessors and so forth.
I second.
Maybe this, at least the start of the process.
Okay, Brett has moved that, do I hear a second?
Andy Bat second.
Andy Beth seconds. Shall we have a vote on all that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We will, we'll put that meeting
Can
together.
you just coordinate that and let us know, or how will that work, as far as the?
That's we're gonna blame it for me.
Yeah.
They were dumping it all on you now,
Just,
so,
I'll see what I can find out.
okay,
We need to go forward with that.
okay, perfect. Okay,
Thank you.
item F, decision possible action, approval of minutes from Regional Planning Commission that was, not held. No, that was from February 19th.
Oh, that was a meeting before.
Yeah,
No, February 19th was held. It was March, it was not held.
Yeah, February 19th. We didn't approve the February 19 minutes yet.
These are the minutes you should have approved at the
Yeah,
last meeting.
so,
I move to approve the minutes, the February 19, 2020 minutes.
I'll second that.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are approved. Okay, and now we open up for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the IRS has always stated anything within mile city limits, city rules apply. You folks talk about clarification needed to be on Fairview Lane and other areas. There's no clarification. There's selective enforcement. I've been complaining about that for years. When I was mayor, I brought in a few goats to eat some weeds on the property I had from a friend of mine. I had contracted with him to cut them, and he said, let me feed my goats. I did that, and they came after me, meaning the city, and I was the mayor. I was given 24 hours to get rid of the goats. I said, you better look at the ordinance. The ordinance says, first you cite me, then in 2 weeks we go to court, so on and so forth. All it was just a gameplay with the manager at that time, Jim Allworth. He also threatened to knock me on my ass, had the sheriff's office remove me, and I was the mayor. I'm tired of selective enforcement. You guys got rules and regulations. You need to adhere to them and stop selectively enforcing the law. I've come to this board, not this with the same members, numerous times. I've been coming to meetings since 1974. You gotta stop this malarkey. I'm concerned about the Avenue D obstruction at the egress and egress to Highway 93, just past the, north of the Holiday Inn. There's a concrete triangle that needs to come out. Stop signs are being run over. The road has been narrowed to 10 feet, if that. You have city standards on minimum widths. That triangle needs to come out. The curb and gutter should be back 5 feet from the property line, not like it is now. There is no ADA access. That's new construction, doesn't meet ADA, it needs to be corrected. A little farther back from the junkyard, Jack Van Camp has a lot. The front was paved, but there was no curb and gutter put in. City policy states new construction. If you're putting in pavement, you put in new curb and gutter. And it's not done to code, meaning 5 feet from the property line. Again, we either have rules and regulations or we don't. I don't wanna see you guys on Main Street or even on this planning commission making these ideas come out, oh, we got a master plan. You're not adhering to anything that's down there. You gotta stop that. Oh, let's see, I can't remember if I talked about the convention center parking lot that was redesigned, doesn't meet ADA. Did I talk to you about that earlier?
That's 3 minutes, George, thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you need to address that, John.
Okay.
Doesn't meet ADA. I'm concerned you're worried more about speaking more than 3 minutes than you are actual planning.
Okay. Any other public comments? Anybody on the phone? Hello?
Any other public comments?
Okay. I hear a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second motion from Brad, a second from Leah. And vote, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes, we are adjourned.
All right, have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Just need it.
Thank you, Mike.
Not a problem.
No, there'll be a stranger. No, never.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chatchis reporting.